Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. Today we are going to explore a topic that is close to our daily life, sense of place. I'm going to explore this topic together with you that was prepared by Madam Shahida, Understanding Community Place, Sense of Place. And I want you to imagine something before we begin. Think about your favorite place. It could be your house at kampung, a cafe you always go to, or even your bedroom. Or maybe a river bank you like to sit by. Or it could be a street at your hometown. Now, ask yourself, what do you love about that place? What emotion rise in you when you imagine being there? If let's say one day that place disappear, how would you feel? So I want you to understand that emotion, that bond, that meaning, that is sense of place. So let's delve into this concept in a way that easy to understand. Okay, to understand sense of place, we must start with the most basic idea. People and place are always interacting. We understand that. So every day, your environment shape your choice. For example, if your house is near a busy road, you might wake up early because of noise, right? If let's say you live near the sea, maybe your hobbies involve fishing or evening walks by the beach. If your neighborhood has many trees, maybe you naturally feel calmer or prefer outdoor activities. So, by describing your place and your environment, you might talk about the roadside stall you pass every morning, or maybe the mosque whose azan you hear 5 times a day for Muslim, or maybe the green hills, the river, or even the type of house around you. So these elements don't exist alone. They influence how you behave, how you feel, even how you think about your identity. And you also influence them through your routines and habits. So this mutual relationship is the foundation of sense of place. So what is sense of place? Sense of place is also known by several other names. That is place attachment, topophilia, or love of place, insidedness, and community sentiment. In a simple words, it is the emotional, cultural, and social bond between peoples and places. Researchers across disciplines agree that sense of place helps us understand how people respond to environmental and social change. The definition from different disciplines. To truly appreciate sense of place, let's look at it through different lenses, as shown here. The first one is anthropology. Anthropologists or people who experts in anthropology says that place attachment is a symbolic relationship between people and land. This attachment includes cultural values, tradition, shared meanings, community rituals. For example, in a kampung, the Balai Raya is not just a building, it's a symbol of gathering, tradition, shared memories, and community identity. The second one is environmental psychology. Psychologists explain sense of place in two ways. The first one is sense of place, your personal emotion experience in a setting, feeling calm, inspired, alive. And the second meaning by psychologists is that the unique personality of a place, mysterious, vibrant, sacred, peaceful. Think of a difference between a quiet library and a bustling pasar malam. Both have their own spirit that shapes your behavior. Now, let's understand on the point of view of geography. Geographers use term topophilia, studied by Yifu Tuan, the affective bond between people and place. This bond can be visual, tactile, nostalgic, or emotional. Now, let's understand on our field, landscape architecture. So, landscape architects, for example, John Brickhoff Jackson says, a sense of place is created over time through recurring events. For example, a park become meaningful because of daily jogs, or maybe a courtyard becomes special because children play there every evening. A riverside, for example, becomes symbolic because every year the community has a festival there. It's not just a physical design, it's the rhythm of life that takes place in it. How about sociology? Sociologists define sense of place as the fusion of how we interpret a place and how we emotionally react to it. So when you say this place feels like home, it is because your thought and feelings about that environment have merged into one seamless understanding. Okay, now let's deepen our understanding of what truly creates a sense of place. Sense of place can be seen as the emotional relationship between people and the places they occupy. It isn't accidental and it doesn't develop instantly. It forms slowly through experiences, memories, through routines, and the meaning we attach to specific environment. Researchers often refers to 3 ingredients that shape a strong sense of place. The first one is physical attributes. There are the visible and tangible features of a place. Its building, natural landscapes, street patterns, sound, smell, texture. For example, a kampong with coconut trees swaying in the wind, or a modern city with glass towers and busy intersection, or even a riverside walkways shaded by large green trees. Physical features set a stage. They influence how people move, gather, socialize, and feel safe or unsafe. A beautiful environment encourages people to stay and interact, but a poorly maintained one pushes them away. The second one is activities. Right? The physical features alone do not create meaning, but it is what people do in those places that gives them lives. Activities such as children playing under a large tree, a morning markets buzzing with local vendors, evening joggers filling up the park, or families picnicking on the weekends. A place becomes memorable because of the experiences lived within it. When a place consistently supports positive activities, our attachment grows. And the third one is meaning. This is the deepest layer of sense of place. Meanings come from personal memories, cultural values, family tradition, spiritual or emotional connection. For example, a simple wooden bench under a tree may have no significance to a stranger, but to someone who spent time there with loved one, it becomes emotionally priceless. So when physical forms, activities and meanings merge, a place becomes more than a location. It becomes a home. It becomes a memory or a symbol or part of identity. So our sense of place is the result of continuous interaction between humans and their living environments, right? So it doesn't come from the physical space alone, and it doesn't come from people alone. Also, it emerged from the relationship between the two, between the people and the environment. People modify spaces through their action, and in return, spaces shape how people behave, gather, socialize, and form identity. Long-term familiarity plays a big role too. The places where we spend years of our lives, for example, our neighborhood, your campus, our town square, maybe Bandar Baru Jelawat, become woven into our memory, right? Even small details such as the smell of rain on asphalt, for example, the sound of the mosque nearby, or the shadow of a large tree at sunset can trigger nostalgia. Physical attributes that support suitable activities such as shaded walkways, for example, you walk from your IBS to your class, pass by open green fields, the pedestrian friendly streets, help strengthen our positive experiences. So over time, these repeated experiences create identity and emotional bonding. So in a simple terms, a sense of place is formed when the environment supports meaningful human experience and humans give meaning back to the environment. Now let's see the example of this area, Yangdong Fort Village in Korea. Its layout reflects the social structure of the Joseon dynasty. Wealthy noble families live on the higher ground, while the farmer live in the cluster below. Right? You can see the differences. This clear spatial hierarchy combined with its traditional architecture creates a strong sense of place rooted in heritage, culture, and history. Right, let's look at the other example, which is Aka Sayyid village in Iran. This village is built in a unique staircase formation. So each roof becomes the walkway for the house above. A sense of place comes from this distinctive architecture, the community's close relationship with nature, and the daily activities such as salt extraction and traditional craftsmanship. So you can read through about the story of this village, and together these elements that I mentioned earlier creates a strong place identity and cultural attachment. Okay, now when we talk about a place, we must first understand where it is. And to describe where, geographers use two types of location. The first one is absolute and the other one is relatives. So let's start with the absolute location. Absolute location is like giving the exact address of a place on the planet. If it doesn't change, no matter what happens around it, it uses latitude and longitude. So for example, let's go together into the Google Map. So now I want everybody to open your Google Map. Let's find an example of Kota Baru, the coordinate of Kota Baru. You can type in 6.1250 north and 102.2386 is. If you type this number into Google Maps, it will take you exactly the same point every time, everywhere in the world, wherever you are. So absolute location is fixed. It's the precise global fingerprint of that place. Okay, now let's look at relative location, which is more flexible, more human. Instead of exact coordinates, we describe where a place is in relation to another place. For example, UMK Pengkalan Cepa is about 10 minutes away from the airport. My house is behind Klinik Kesihatan. Maybe it's next to the main road, near the petrol station. So all these are relative because they depend on someone's reference point. If the airport moves or a new road opens, the way we describe the location may also change. Right. So think about this. Absolute location, the place's IC number is not changing, right? But the relative location, how people usually explain where is it, can change depending on context. So both are important because absolute location helps us map and measure accurately, while the relative location helps us understand accessibility, the movement, and the daily experience. Now that we know where a place is, we can explore what place is like. So every place in the world is shaped by two types of characteristic. That is physical characteristic and human characteristic. Let's look into the first one, the physical characteristic. Physical characteristic are natural elements, things that existed even before humans arrived. Things about rivers, mountains, beaches, the climate, soil, forests, animal, vegetation. For example, Cameron Highland is cool because of its high elevation. Kuala Terengganu, for example, is shaped by its coastal landscape. The fishing village, the mangroves, sea breeze. These natural features influence what activities can or cannot happen there. So you won't plant tea on a flat, hot lowland, and you don't even build a port in the mountains, right? Next, let's understand about human characteristic. Human characteristics include everything humans create. For example, houses and buildings, roads and bridges, public parks, cultural landmarks, languages spoken, population density, local tradition, food, festivals, identity. There's a lot of examples given. For example, in Chinatown in Kuala Lumpur, has a mix of shop lots, temples, markets, and heritage buildings. So the physical buildings are there, but the true character comes from the people, their culture, their food, their history. When we combine both physical and human characteristic, we can begin to understand why each place feels unique. So a place is never just a physical space, it is a blend of environment, people, culture, and history. Alright, for this one, this is going to be the activity for today, and we will come to this slide at the end of this lesson. Now, let's look at how people form a deeper, more meaningful bond with a place. On this slide, you will see that sense of place can be understood through two connected ideas. The first one is relationship to place. This refers to the ways people relate to places, the types of bond we have. Think of it like the different reason you feel connected to a certain neighborhood, a river, or even a city. The second one is community attachment. This focuses on how deeply people feel attached to one particular place. It goes beyond liking the environment. It becomes a part of your identity or your memories and your social life. People's attachment to place is not just emotion. It is shaped by personal experiences, social interaction, culture, and even practical needs. That is why the diagram on this slide show two circles working together, right? This one. One circle representing sense of place, and the other one is a concern for place, and how this influence our mental image and the way we represent the place, represent the environment. Okay, so when we talk about sense of place, we are not just describing whether a place looks nice or but we are describing how the place shaped us and how we shape the place in return. On this slide, you will see a table listing different types of bonds people form with places. Let's go through each one slowly with simple stories you can imagine how they work. Right, the first one is biographical bond. It is historical and familial bond. This is the bond formed over time. You grow up in a house, for example, attend school in the same area, visit the same shop for years. By the time you are an adult, the place holds your entire life story. This is why many elderly people feel strongly about their kampung or their hometown. The place holds generation of memories. Right, the second one is spiritual bond, which is bond by emotional and intangible. This bond doesn't need logic. It is the feeling of peace you get when you sit there. For example, sit by a river, or a sense of calm you feel inside a mosque, or some places make you feel inspired or grounded for reason you cannot fully explain. Okay, the third one is ideological bond, where it bond through moral and ethical. This bond comes from your beliefs. For example, conserving a wetland because you believe in environmental stewardship, or valuing a heritage street because you believe culture must be preserved. People defend these places because of what they stand for. Right. The next one is narrative bond, a mythical and story-based bond. Sometimes stories ties us to places, folklore legends, historical incidents. Think of places like Gunung Ledang or Tasik Chini, right? Which are tied to myth. Even if you weren't there, the story shapes your connection. The next one is commodified bond. It is based on the cognitive or choice and desire. This is a lifestyle preference. People choose to live in a city because it offers job opportunities, or move to a forest edge neighborhood because they love nature. or maybe their sense of place is shaped by personal preferences. And the last one is dependent bond. This is born by material or opportunity. So here, people rely on a place for economic survival. Fishermen depend on a coast, for example. Farmers depend on fertile land. Students depend on a campus environment. If the place disappears, so does the opportunities. Right? So these 6 bonds show that sense of place is layered. A single place can connect to you emotionally, spiritually, historically, and practically, all at the same time. So this is what makes a place meaningful, and this is why people fight to protect the places they love. Let's look at the example diagram on this slide, which shows how different bonds influence people's attitude, especially towards a future generation. So the diagram highlights 4 main elements. That is, the first one is nature bonding. People who live close to the coast or forests often develop a strong connection to nature. They may enjoy wildlife, appreciate biodiversity, or spend time outdoors. This bonding makes them more aware of environmental issues. For example, someone who grew up near a river may fight harder to protect it from pollution compared to someone who never experienced that bond. Right? The second one is place dependence. Here, people rely on the place for their lifestyle. For example, living near the coast might be important because it supports their livelihood. It offers recreation. It aligns with their identity. So when the environment change, their daily life also change. The third one is sense of belonging. Right? This is deeper. It is the feeling that this place is part of who I am, who you are, who they are. People with strong belonging are more willing to protect the environment, to invest time and energy, to make sacrifice for the community. Right? And the other one is social bonding and familiarity. This comes from the relationship where neighbors, community networks share routines. For example, greeting the same pakcik who sells kuih every morning builds familiarity. Over time, this familiarity becomes emotional security. So, putting it all together, all this bond, nature, social, emotional, and functional, shape how people develop attitudes towards the future. Right? For example, they wanting to preserve the cause, they wanting to pass down the cultural identity, they wanting to protect resources for the next generation, and all that. So sense of place isn't just about personal feelings. It affects how communities plan, manage, and care for the environment. So now, let's pull everything together and look at the 3 pillars that form a strong sense of place. Think of these pillars like the leg of a tripod. Each one supports the overall stability. If one is missing, the sense of place becomes weaker. Let's go through of them one by one. The first one is place identity. So this is how this place shape who I am, who you are. Place identity is the emotional and symbolic part of a place that becomes part of your personality. Uh, for example, if you grew up near a beach, maybe the sounds of wave makes you feel calmed. Or if you grow up in a traditional Malay kampong, maybe wooden houses, coconut trees, open spaces feel like home to you, even if you move far away. So places influence the way we behave, the memories we hold, the value that shape us. Sometimes a place become a part of your personal story. So you don't just live in the place lives inside you. All right. And the second one is place attachment. This is how emotionally connected I feel or you feel. This pillar, the second pillar, is about the strength of your emotional bond. Some places comfort you, some inspire you, and some carry precious memory. For example, a mosque where you perform your first tarawih, right? Or a school field where you played sport with friends, or a garden where your grandmother used to sit. So when you return to these places years later, you may feel warmth, nostalgia, or even sadness. This emotional reaction is your place attachment speaking. It is why people say, I miss my hometown, or this place feels like home. Right. And the third one is place dependence. How this place supports my needs or lifestyle. Uh, right. Place dependence is more practical. It answers the question, why do I choose this place over another? For example, fishermen depend on coastal areas, of course. Students depend on campus environments, or a farmer depends on fertile land, as I said earlier. Uh, and another example is that urban residents depends on job access, transportation, and amenities. So you may also depend on a place for safety, for convenience, for economic opportunity, or cultural familiarity. So place dependence is about how well a place serves you daily. So when all these three pillars come together, the identity of a place shape you. You feel emotionally attached and you depend on the place for your life or activities. That is when a strong sense of place emerge. You don't just live that place, you understand it, you feel it, and you rely on it. This is why people fight to protect meaningful places, why communities preserve heritage sites, and why certain environments feel irreplaceable. A sense of place is not created overnight. It grows slowly through experience, memory, routine, and connection, until one day you realize you belong to the place and the place belong to you. Right. With this, I end this presentation for today's topic, and we'll see you in the next tutorial. Thank you.